All right, let me ask about the shadow cabinet reshuffle. So Peter Dutton's put Jacinta Price in charge of government efficiency, James Stephens in charge of waste reduction. If you were to become Finance Minister, you shadow finance. Isn't that your job, government efficiency, to find things to cut?
Well, this is not unusual for a coalition government to be focused on reducing government waste and improving government efficiency. We've had ministers for government efficiency and reducing red tape and improving government services in the past. It's fantastic to have Jacinta Price as part of the team. She is a warrior for the cause, having already identified so much waste and mismanagement in her own portfolio. It'll be fantastic to have her as part of this
so
team.
It's not
and
undercutting you?
Don't for a second think that there isn't... Oh, gosh, no, of course not. And don't think for a second that there isn't an awful lot of government waste to go around. We can start by talking about the 36,000 additional public servants that have been appointed by this government. That's about 40 new public servants every single day since they have come to government. And at the same time, we've actually seen a reduction in the quality of services that are being delivered. So just for example, the Department of Health has increased by 47%. I was talking to Anne Ruston about this just yesterday. And yet, at the same time, bulk billing rates have gone backwards. The Department of Energy and Environment has doubled in the number of public servants, and yet approval times, environmental approvals, are slower and emissions have gone up. Services Australia have added an additional 4,000 public servants, yet it takes longer now to apply for a pension, around 48 days compared to 35 under a coalition government. If you're on the phone to the children and parenting services, wait times up to about an hour. It takes 5 times longer to get a low-income card than it did under the coalition. So of these 36,000 new public servants, you're not getting 20% more. That's a 20% increase of public service. You're certainly not getting a 20% improvement
All right, I'll get to that in a
your
second.
public service. What are they doing?
I just want to get to this point. Will Jacinta Price be on the Shadow Cabinet Expenditure Review Committee?
Well, Jacinta Price is already in Shadow Cabinet, where the important
on the
decisions are making.
Expenditure
And in
Review
fact,
Committee?
elevating the role, well, that's a decision for Peter Dutton. But Jacinta Price is already in Cabinet, and it's fantastic to have that government efficiency focus within Cabinet as well.
All right, on the
weekend,
weekend...
I'm really looking forward to having Jacinta on board with this.
Yeah, to The Australian, Jacinta Price said the coalition would follow the principles of Margaret Thatcher in office. What did you make of those comments?
Well, I think it wouldn't be hard to find a number of Margaret Thatcher fans in a coalition government. But the real issue here is to put a uniquely Australian approach to what it is we're going to do to improve government efficiencies. And there are certainly ways that we can do that very quickly. Just for instance, the government waste that has been identified by James Stephens on the underlabor.com website, and if you want to spit out your Wheaties over your breakfast, go to the underlabor.com website that James Stephens has put together, is eye-watering. Let's just take one example. DFAT, the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, have employed a consultant in Darlinghurst to give them strategic advice on how to have a First Nations approach to foreign affairs. Now, I'm not entirely sure why that's necessary in the first place, but it's going to cost over $250,000. On top of that, we already have a First Nations ambassador and part of his mandate is to develop a strategic approach to a First Nations approach to foreign affairs. He earns $380,000 a year. There is extraordinary amounts of duplication for things that I'm not entirely sure we need in the first place. So there is plenty to do here. I want all hands on deck.
Can I drill down a bit on this? 36,000 public servants. Will you be getting rid of all of them? Yeah. Will you get rid of 1,000 new ones in the NDIS? Will you get rid of the additions in Veterans Affairs, or are you going to keep those in those two departments?
We've certainly said that we're going to stop the growth in this bloated public service.
Are you going to cut any of the 36,000?
We will make sure that essential services are maintained and indeed improved. But there is duplication out there. Inevitably, we will make sure that we stop the waste and we stop the duplication. Because as the public sector grows, it grows to unprecedented levels, it actually prevents the private sector getting on and getting ahead. We want to make sure that we have private sector-led recovery, because that's the only way to sustainable economic growth. You will not find an economic recovery through an increase in the size of the public sector.
Yeah, indeed. And I accept there is a point around private and public and the economy. Do you plan, though, to bring consultants back in, which controversially the other government did? Will we have, you know, the PwCs of the world back in the picture under a coalition
government? Well, ironically, this government is still using consultants, and there will always be a place for consultants, whether it is, because you can't expect public servants to be experts at everything all the time, particularly when technology is changing so much. This government may have, talked a big game on consultants, but they're still using them. And the best example I can give you is that DFAT one, that they've employed a consultant in Darlinghurst to give them a strategy on a First Nations approach to foreign affairs. If they were really cutting consultants, they wouldn't have done that.